Is there scientific evidence backing the earthquake we see described in the Bible at the time of Jesus' crucifixion? I'm joined today by CBN's Raj Nair. Now, Raj, there's an old study from about 10 years ago that's apparently making headlines again. And it's a study that's all about this earthquake. And apparently it's gotten a lot of attention on social media. But I want to read some scripture before we dive into this. Matthew 27:50-51. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split. So that is the moment of Jesus's death and this earthquake that obviously the Bible recounts after he died. Now, in 2012, apparently there were geologists who looked at some sediment layers near the Dead Sea and they saw some evidence of these potential earthquakes. One big one around 31 BC, they estimated, and then another smaller event, maybe between 26 to 36 AD. Now, this is around the time of Pontius Pilate. That's when he was in office. And so there have been some questions. People are saying, well, wait a minute, is this proof of what the Bible tells us, proof of this earthquake? Now, before we get into some of the other sides of it, Raj, what was your take when you saw this story?
Whew, I'm excited, my friend. I mean, at the end of the day, like here you have this sediment found near the Dead Sea, and it's like, yep, yep, yeah, it happened. We just did a story the other day about the Isaiah scroll, and it's like, yep, that happened. You just mentioned Pontius Pilate. This wasn't even on what I was going to talk about, but I think it's in 1961. Don't quote me on that. I should look this up. 1964, somewhere around there. They're just digging in a place called Caesarea Maritima, Caesarea, more commonly known as. It's right on the coast of Israel, and they're just digging up, and they find this stone, and people are like, "Oh, they're Pontius Pilate. Bible made him up," and then they overturn the stone, and it literally says Pontius Pilatus, and it's like, well, guess that guy existed too. So the idea that they're finding evidence of an earthquake in Israel during the exact same time when Jesus would have been crucified in Matthew, what'd you say, 27:51
It
said,
is Matthew 27:50-51. Yep.
boom, bada bing, bada boom. There was no King David, the Tel Dan Stele. Israel only came to existence in about 900, maybe 700 BC. The Mernafta Stele. It's like, okay, the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's like, guys, it all happened. It all happened. And here's my encouragement to you too. That to me, archaeologically, like digging up old like buildings, but also archaeologically, like sediment wise, it's like Bible being proved, Bible being proved. But I also think some of the more challenging, like I am so utterly convinced now, having been to Israel 30 times and gone to the Israel Museum and the British Museum and really studied textual manuscripts and all these stelas that basically validate scripture. And so archaeologically, I'm like, wow, like God, like you gave us an obnoxious amount of evidence. But I want to go to something that's like what, two verses behind that, that actually has always kind of messed me up. And that is two verses before that exact verse. Very famously, God says, about 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now, here's what my encouragement to you. Have you ever read that and been like, what? My God, why have you forsaken me? That actually, I'm telling you, Billy, that actually used to give me some pause. I'm like, why are you saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? If you're God, you can't be like, what is happening? But then someone showed me something and it suddenly clicked. He was around a bunch of like, very religious people who would know scripture like the back of their minds. And when he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? He was quoting Psalm 22, which is a messianic psalm. And if you read Psalm 22, I'm getting excited. I'm getting fired up, man. The Bible is just so cool. If you read Psalm 22, well, again, written 1,000 years before Jesus, and you read it, and in that moment, as Jesus is being crucified, he says, hey, I want everyone's eyes to be on what? Psalm 22. Let me read you just a couple verses from Psalm 22, starting in verse 16. Dogs surround me. A pack of villains encircle me. They pierce. Whoo, goosebumps. They pierce my hands and my feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. Verse 18. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. He's like, guys, I'm this. So Biblically, I'm this. Archaeologically, I'm this. Sedimentary rock found thousands of years later, I'm this. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am Yeshua. I am God incarnate. I am the Son of Man that Daniel talks about. I am that I am. And he proved it by his resurrection. I think there's great proof of that. Billy, I could go on. And I usually don't get this fired up about anything, but man, the Bible is just so cool.
Yeah, and look, I'll be fair on the other side that some people said, okay, when it comes to, and I agree with everything you just said. When it comes to this, there are other earthquakes there. It's prone to earthquakes allegedly in that area. Is it the earthquake? Is it not? I think God leaves us breadcrumbs, right? Of like that back, exactly what you were just saying before. And now that Israel's back in the land and that we're excavating and looking and finding all these things, we're finding even more proof. So I love the fact that this is even a point of debate. People might walk away and say, well, we don't really know if that big earthquake was the one that's described in the Bible, but it does line up on timing, and that's really interesting, right? So at the end of the day, I love the conversation. I love that a 10-year-old study has come back on social media and people are saying, look, it's proof of the Bible. And look, the critics are going to say what they say, but I think this is a pretty cool thing. And we should lean into these conversations because we know the Bible's true. We know that earthquake happened. We know that the veil was torn. All of this happened. So whether this earthquake proves it or not, we know that there is proof of plenty of other things in Scripture.